Frank Morrison's head hit the floor at 8:47 p.m., and the taste of blood filled his mouth before he could scream. 80 years old, Purple Heart on the wall. Left leg shattered in Vietnam and never quite right again. And 3 masked thugs were laughing as they kicked his cane across the room. "Please," Frank whispered, reaching for the urn. Helen's ashes, his wife of 52 years. But the youngest one grabbed it first, shaking it like a trophy.
"No, please, not that!"
The urn shattered against the wall, and at that exact moment, 30 miles away, Commander Marcus Morrison felt his blood run cold, without knowing why. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. This is a story that needs to be heard. Comment below and tell us what city you're watching from. We want to see how far Frank's story travels. Now, let's begin where it all went wrong. The first punch came without warning. Frank Morrison had been washing dishes when he heard the glass break. Not a small sound, not an accident. The deliberate crash of someone forcing their way through his kitchen window. His heart hammered against his ribs. He reached for his cane, the sturdy oak one Marcus had sent him 2 Christmases ago, and moved toward the phone on the wall. 3 steps. That's all he managed before they were inside. 3 of them. Young, wearing black hoodies and bandanas over their faces. The tallest one, the leader, Frank could tell immediately from his posture, carried a crowbar. "Don't move, old man." The voice was young, too young, maybe 25 at most. "This'll be quick if you cooperate." Frank's military training kicked in despite 5 decades of rust. Assess the threat. Look for exits. Protect what matters most. "My wallet's on the counter," Frank said, keeping his voice steady. "Take it. Take whatever you want. Just leave." "Whatever we want?" The leader laughed. "You hear that, boys? He's giving us permission." The other 2 spread out, flanking Frank. One was stockier, built like a linebacker. The other was lean, nervous energy radiating off him like heat. "Please." Frank raised his free hand in surrender, the other gripping his cane. "I'm 80 years old. I'm disabled. I have nothing worth taking?" The stocky one moved closer, examining the walls. "What about these?" He ripped one of Frank's military medals off the wall. Bronze Star. Earned in 1968, outside Da Nang, when Frank pulled 3 wounded Marines out of a burning truck while taking enemy fire. "That's..." Frank's voice broke. "That's mine. I earned that." "You earned it?" The stocky one turned it over in his hands. "Looks like metal to me. Probably worth something at a pawn shop." "Give it back." Frank took a step forward, and his bad leg nearly gave out. He caught himself on the cane, pain shooting up from his knee. "Those aren't for sale. Those are..." The leader shoved him. Frank went down hard. His cane skittered away. His left leg, the one held together with pins and screws and 50 years of stubbornness, screamed in agony. "Stay down, Grandpa." Frank's vision blurred. The floor was cold against his cheek. Above him, the 3 men moved through his home like a swarm of locusts. Drawers opened, furniture overturned. His life, small and quiet and carefully maintained, destroyed in minutes. "Hey!" the nervous one called from the living room. "Check this out!" Frank tried to push himself up. His arms trembled. His leg wouldn't support his weight. He could only watch as they gathered around the fireplace mantel, around Helen's urn. "No." The word came out as a whisper. "Not that. Please, not that." The leader picked up the ceramic urn. Beautiful blue-gray glaze. Marcus had chosen it. Said it reminded him of the ocean, where Mom always wanted to scatter her ashes but never got the chance. "What's in here?" The leader shook it. Feels heavy. It's my wife. Frank's voice cracked completely. It's my wife's ashes. Please. You can take everything else. Everything. But please, please don't. Your wife? The stocky one laughed. You kept your dead wife on the mantle? That's creepy, old man. She wasn't creepy. Tears burned Frank's eyes. She was beautiful. She was everything. And she's all I have left. All you have left? The nervous one pulled out his phone. Guys, we gotta film this. This is gold. What? Frank tried again to stand. Failed. What are you... The phone's camera light blinked on. Yo, check this out. The nervous one, Tyler, one of them had called him, narrated for his video. Found this old dude living alone. Look at all these ancient metals. Dude's probably like 100 years old. 80, Frank said quietly. I'm 80. Whatever. Tyler moved closer, filming Frank struggling on the floor. Bro can't even stand up. This is sad. Tyler, man, hold the camera steady. The stocky one, Jackson, grabbed Helen's urn. Get this. Watch this. Frank's heart stopped. Don't, he begged. Please, I'm begging you. Take my wallet. Take my TV. Take my car. But please. Jackson tossed the urn to the leader like a football. The leader, Devon, caught it, laughing. How much you think we can get for this? It's not for sale. Frank's voice rose to a shout. It's my wife. It's Helen. Please, I'm begging you. I'll give you anything. You ain't got nothing we want, old man. Devon turned the urn over in his hands. Except maybe some entertainment. Tyler, you getting this? Got it all, bro. Frank dragged himself forward. His fingers scraped against hardwood. His leg left a smear of blood from where he'd hit the floor. Every movement was agony. But he had to reach her, had to protect her. Please, he whispered. Please, she's all I have. My son is deployed. I haven't seen him in 3 years. She's all I have left in this world. Please don't take her from me. Something flickered across Devon's face. Almost like hesitation. Almost like shame. Then Jackson spoke. Do it, bro. Throw it. Don't. Frank reached out his hand. Don't you dare. Devon threw the urn against the wall. The sound was catastrophic. Ceramic exploding, gray ash billowing out like smoke. 52 years of marriage reduced to powder, spreading across Frank's floor. Frank screamed. Not a word, not a sentence, just pure animal grief. The sound of something fundamental breaking inside a human being. He crawled toward the ash. His bad leg dragged behind him. His hands shook as he tried to gather Helen back together, tried to scoop her ashes into his palms, tried to make her whole again. No, 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 no. His voice dissolved into sobs. Helen, baby, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I couldn't protect you. I couldn't... The 3 men stood silent for a moment. Even Tyler had lowered his phone. Then Jackson laughed. Dude's literally crying over dust. The spell broke. They all laughed. Tyler raised his phone again. This is going viral, Tyler said. Old man crying on his floor. This is content, bro. This is straight content. Get his face. Jackson moved closer. Zoom in on the tears. Frank didn't look up. Couldn't look up. All he could see was gray ash slipping through his fingers. All he could feel was the weight of every promise he'd ever broken. Promised Helen he'd take her to the ocean. Promised he'd scatter her ashes at sunset. Promised he'd keep her safe. Failed. 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 Yo, old man! Devon crouched beside him. You gonna be okay? Frank's hands stilled in the ash. Something cold settled over him. Something beyond grief. Beyond fear. Rage. Get out of my house." "What?" Devon leaned closer.
What'd you say?
Frank raised his head, met Devon's eyes, and for just a moment, just one terrible moment, Devon saw past the tears and the trembling and the 80-year-old man on the floor. He saw the Marine who'd survived Da Nang. "I said," Frank's voice was granite, "get out of my house." "Or what?" Jackson kicked Frank's cane further away. "You gonna stop us, cripple?" "I'm going to." Devon's foot caught Frank in the ribs. The breath exploded out of Frank's lungs. He collapsed into Helen's ashes. Blood filled his mouth. The room spun. "Don't threaten us, old man," Devon stood. "We're being nice. We could do worse. So much worse," Tyler agreed, still filming. "Like, we could take your pills. Where's your heart medication? Bet you need that, huh?" Frank tried to answer. Couldn't. His chest screamed. Ribs cracked, probably. Definitely. He'd had broken ribs before. In Vietnam. In the truck fire. He knew what they felt like. "Check the bathroom," Devon ordered. Jackson disappeared down the hall. Cabinets opened, bottles rattled. He returned with Frank's medication bottles. "Got blood pressure pills, got heart pills, got pain pills." Jackson dumped them on the floor. "Old dude's a walking pharmacy." "Please," Frank could barely speak. "I need those. I need—" Jackson crushed the pills under his boot. White powder mixed with gray ash. Medicine and memory ground into Frank's floor together. "You don't need anything," Jackson said. "You're done, old man. You're ancient. You're useless. Nobody cares about you. Nobody's coming to save you." Frank closed his eyes. He thought of Marcus, his boy, his son, the baby he'd held 35 years ago and promised to teach about strength and honor and courage. The son he'd pushed away after Helen died. Pushed away because Frank couldn't bear anyone seeing him weak. Couldn't bear being a burden. Couldn't bear dragging Marcus down with his grief and his guilt and his broken leg. 3 years since they'd really talked. 3 years of brief phone calls and awkward silences and all the words Frank could never quite say. "I'm proud of you. I love you. I miss you. I'm sorry." Now he'd never get the chance. "Let's go." Devon headed for the door. "Got what we came for." "Wait." Tyler was still filming. "One more thing for the video." He walked over to Frank and crouched down, angling the phone camera to capture both their faces. "Say hi to the internet, old man. Tell them how you got owned." Frank said nothing. "Come on." Tyler nudged him with his foot. "Say something. Give the people content." Frank opened his eyes. "You're going to regret this." "Yeah?" Tyler laughed. "Why's that? You gonna haunt us, Grandpa?" "No." Frank's voice was barely above a whisper. "My son is." Tyler rolled his eyes. "Your son? The one who's deployed? The one who hasn't visited you in 3 years?" He leaned closer to the camera. "Guys, this boomer thinks his son's gonna save him. That's sad. That's actually depressing." "He will," Frank said with absolute certainty. "He'll find you. And when he does—" "When he does what?" Jackson called from the doorway. "He'll what? Send us a strongly worded letter?" "We're shaking, old man. Really shaking." They left laughing. The door slammed. Footsteps faded. Engines started outside and roared away into the night. Silence. Frank lay in the wreckage of his life. Blood in his mouth, ribs screaming, pills crushed, medals stolen. Helen gone. Really gone now. Not just dead, but destroyed, scattered, lost forever. He should call the police, should call 911, should do something. but his phone was smashed. His body wouldn't move. His leg was useless. His chest felt like it was caving in. Maybe this is it, Frank thought. Maybe this is how it ends. Alone on my floor, covered in my wife's ashes. Too broken to stand. Too tired to fight. Maybe it's better this way. Then he heard the truck. Not just any truck. A specific engine sound. A diesel rumble Frank would know anywhere, because he'd helped Marcus pick out that truck 10 years ago. Helped him negotiate the price. Helped him change the oil the first time. Marcus's truck. Frank's heart stuttered. No. No, not now. Not like this. Marcus can't see me like this. Can't see me weak. Can't see me destroyed. Can't see what I've become. The engine shut off. Door opened. Footsteps on the porch. "Dad?" Marcus's voice carried through the broken window. "Dad, your window's smashed. I'm coming in." "No!" Frank tried to call out. His voice was too weak. Don't come in." The door opened. Marcus Morrison stood in the doorway. 35 years old. Short, dark brown hair under his navy cap. Sharp jaw clenched tight. Eyes, Helen's eyes, gray like storm clouds, scanning the room with military precision. He was wearing his Navy working uniform, Type 3 camouflage, green and brown digital pattern. The uniform meant he'd come straight from the base, straight from duty, straight to Frank. Beside him stood Rex, German Shepherd, tan and black coat, former Navy SEAL K9. The dog's ears were up, alert, sensing wrongness. Marcus's eyes found Frank on the floor. For 3 seconds, 3 eternal seconds, father and son stared at each other across the ruined living room. Then Marcus moved. He crossed the space in 4 strides, dropped to his knees, hands, steady hands that had defused bombs and held dying teammates and pulled triggers in the dark, trembled as they touched Frank's face. Dad, look at me. Can you hear me?" Frank tried to speak. Couldn't. Grief and shame and relief crashed over him like a wave. "Don't move." Marcus's voice shifted. Commander voice. Combat voice. "Rex, watch the door." The German Shepherd positioned himself at the entrance, a living alarm system. Marcus's hands moved over Frank's body, checking for injuries, assessing damage. He touched Frank's ribs, and Frank hissed in pain. "Broken ribs, at least 2, maybe 3. Marcus's jaw tightened. "Dad, who did this?" Frank shook his head. Tears streamed down his face, cutting tracks through ash and blood. "Dad," harder now, "who did this?" 3 of them, Frank whispered. "Young, maybe 25. They took your mother." Marcus's eyes moved to the broken urn, the ash on the floor, the shattered ceramic. Something changed in his expression. Something dark, something dangerous. "They destroyed Mom's ashes." "I couldn't stop them," Frank's voice broke. "I tried. I begged. But I couldn't. I couldn't protect her. Dad! I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I failed her. I failed you. I'm useless. I'm weak. Stop." Marcus cupped Frank's face in both hands. "Listen to me. You're not weak. You're not useless. You're 80 years old with a service-related disability, and you were attacked in your own home by 3 men. There is no scenario where that's your fault. None. But, Helen, Mom's not gone." Marcus looked at the ash on the floor. "She's just scattered. We'll gather her. Every bit. I promise." "How?" Frank sobbed. "How can we—" "The same way we do everything. Together. One piece at a time, no matter how long it takes." Marcus stood, and there was steel in his voice now. But first, I need to know exactly what happened, and I need to know now. Frank told him, every detail. The window breaking, the 3 men, the medals, the medication, Tyler's phone filming everything, the urn thrown against the wall, the laughter as Frank crawled through his wife's ashes. Marcus listened without interrupting. His face was stone, but his hands clenched into fists so tight his knuckles went white. "They filmed it," Marcus said when Frank finished. "Yes. They filmed themselves committing assault, battery, breaking and entering, theft, destruction of property, and desecration of human remains." I suppose so, yes." "Good." Marcus pulled out his phone. "Then they've given us everything we need." "Marcus, no." Frank grabbed his son's arm. "You can't. They're young. They'll have lawyers. Good lawyers. Rich families, probably. The police—" "I'm not calling the police yet." "Then who?" "Someone higher up the chain of command." Marcus's eyes were cold. "Dad, do you trust me?" Frank looked at his son. Really looked at him. This wasn't the boy who'd left for basic training at 20 years old. This was a Navy SEAL commander. A man who'd spent 15 years in the darkest corners of the world. A man who'd learned how to fight monsters. "With my life," Frank whispered. "Then trust me now." Marcus started making calls, because those 3 men just made the biggest mistake of their lives. What mistake? Marcus looked at his father, at the blood, at the ash, at the broken man trying to hold on to broken pieces. "They hurt someone I love," Marcus said quietly. "And I don't forget. I don't forgive. And I sure as hell don't let it go." Rex growled low in his throat. Agreement. Solidarity. Pack mentality. Frank felt something shift in his chest. Not just pain from broken ribs. Something else. Something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. "What are you going to do?" Frank asked. Marcus smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator who'd just caught the scent. "I'm going to teach them what happens when you attack a veteran," Marcus said. "And I'm going to make sure they never forget it." The first call Marcus made was to someone who answered on the first ring. "Chen." "Detective, it's Marcus Morrison. I need you at my father's house. Now." "Marcus?" Detective Sarah Chen's voice shifted from professional to concerned. "What happened?" "Home invasion, assault, elderly victim. My father." Marcus kept his voice level, but his free hand was still clenched in that white-knuckled fist. 3 suspects. They filmed themselves. How fast can you get here?" 15 minutes. Don't touch anything." "Already called EMT. They're 2 minutes out." "Good. Marcus—" Sarah hesitated. "How bad?" Marcus looked at his father, curled on the floor, covered in his wife's ashes, trying not to cry. "Bad enough." He ended the call and immediately dialed another number. This one rang 4 times before a gruff voice answered. "Morrison, you better be calling because you're ready to re-up." "Captain, I need a favor." Captain Jake Torres had been Marcus's commanding officer for 6 years. The man had seen Marcus at his worst, covered in blood and mud, holding a dying teammate, making impossible decisions in impossible situations. He'd never heard fear in Marcus's voice. He heard it now. "Name it." "My father was attacked. 3 men. They destroyed my mother's remains. I need JAG Council and I need veteran advocacy groups mobilized. Tonight." "Jesus, Marcus." Jake's voice hardened. "Location?" Marcus rattled off the address. "Dad's 80, disabled vet, Purple Heart. They kicked him like a dog and filmed it for social media." "They what?" "Filmed it. Posted it, probably. That's how stupid they are." "Then they're done." Jake's voice had gone cold. "I'll have JAG on standby. I'll contact VVA and Legion commanders. But Marcus..." "What?" "Don't do anything I wouldn't do." Marcus almost laughed. It came out bitter. "That leaves me a lot of options, Captain." "Exactly. Stay smart. Stay legal. But make them hurt." The line went dead. Frank was watching him with something like awe. Or maybe terror. Marcus couldn't tell which, and didn't have time to figure it out, because sirens were approaching. "Dad, paramedics are here. You need to let them check you." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You have broken ribs, possible internal bleeding, shock, trauma." Marcus's voice cracked on the last word. "Please, please let them help you." Frank saw it then. The way Marcus's hand shook. The way his jaw trembled despite being clenched tight. The way his eyes kept returning to the ash on the floor. His son wasn't just angry. He was terrified. "Okay," Frank whispered. "Okay, son. I'll let them help." The paramedics rushed in. A woman in her 30s took one look at Frank and her face went pale. "Sir, can you hear me? Can you tell me your name?" "Frank Morrison, 80 years old, veteran, Purple Heart." He rattled off his service number. Old habits. "Broken ribs, possible concussion, attacked approximately 40 minutes ago." The female paramedic, her name tag said Rodriguez, exchanged a glance with her partner. Combat veterans knew their injuries, knew their bodies. It was both impressive and heartbreaking. "Sir, we need to take you to the hospital." "No." Frank tried to sit up and gasped. "No hospital. I can't afford..." "Dad." Marcus was beside him instantly. "Don't worry about money. Don't worry about anything. Just let them help you." "But the bills..." "I'll handle it." Marcus's voice was firm. "I'll handle everything. I promise." Frank wanted to argue, wanted to be strong, wanted to be the father who didn't need help from his son. But his body made the decision for him. Pain exploded through his chest, and everything went gray at the edges. "He's going into shock," Rodriguez said sharply. "We need to move, now." They loaded Frank onto a stretcher. Marcus walked beside them, his hand gripping his father's. Rex followed, pressed against Marcus's leg. "Sir, the dog can't come in the ambulance," the male paramedic said. Marcus didn't even look at him. "The dog goes where I go. He's a service animal, retired Navy. Check the tags." The paramedic checked, saw the military tags, saw the service certification, stepped back. "Yes, sir." They loaded Frank into the ambulance. Marcus climbed in beside him. Rex jumped up without being told. "I'll meet you at the hospital," Rodriguez said to her partner. "I need to stay for the police." "Police?" Frank's voice was weak. "Marcus, you called the police?" "I called everyone, Dad. But they'll want statements. They'll want evidence. They'll..." Frank's breath caught. "They'll see me. They'll see me broken. They'll see the truth." Marcus squeezed his father's hand. "And the truth is, you're a victim. Not of your own weakness, not of your own failure, but of 3 criminals who chose violence. That's the truth, Dad. That's all that matters." Frank closed his eyes. Tears leaked out anyway. The ambulance doors closed. Detective Sarah Chen arrived at Frank's house 7 minutes after Marcus's call. She was 42, Korean-American, and had worked robbery homicide for 15 years. She'd seen bad things. This was worse than bad. The living room was destroyed, furniture overturned, drawers dumped. But what stopped her cold was the gray ash covering the floor. Human ash. She knew the texture, knew the color, knew what it meant.
Jesus Christ,
she whispered. Rodriguez briefed her quickly. 80-year-old victim, military veteran, attacked by 3 suspects. Elderly man's wife's ashes desecrated. The words came out clinical, professional, but her hands shook as she showed Sarah the broken urn fragments.
Commander Morrison said they filmed it, Rodriguez added. Said it might be posted online already.
Sarah pulled out her phone.
What am I looking for?
Probably tag something like pranking old people or easy target or... Rodriguez's face twisted with disgust. You know the kind of garbage these kids post. Sarah knew. She'd worked cases before where criminals filmed their own crimes. The arrogance of it never failed to amaze her. She scrolled through recent posts, searching. It took 3 minutes to find it. The video was posted to multiple platforms. Already had 10,000 views. The caption read, "When boomers can't take a joke, hashtag old man down, hashtag get wrecked, hashtag pranked." Sarah pressed play. Her stomach turned. The video showed everything. The attack, the begging, the urn being thrown, an 80-year-old man crawling through his wife's ashes while 3 young men laughed. The camera zoomed in on Frank's face, on his tears, on his broken expression. The comments were worse. People laughing, people sharing, people calling Frank pathetic, calling him weak, calling him dramatic. Only a few comments expressed outrage. The rest were pure cruelty. Sarah screenshotted everything, downloaded the video, documented the profiles. Tyler Brennan, Jackson Whitmore, Devin Hayes. All 3 accounts were public. All 3 had thousands of followers. All 3 were verified. Idiots. Complete idiots. They'd literally filmed themselves committing multiple felonies and posted it publicly. She called her sergeant. "Boss, I need backup. I need warrants. And I need them tonight." "Chen, it's almost midnight." "I don't care what time it is. We have video evidence of 3 men assaulting an 80-year-old disabled veteran in his own home. We have their faces. We have their names. We have everything. If we don't move now, they'll delete the evidence." "Who's the victim?" "Frank Morrison, father of Commander Marcus Morrison, Navy SEAL." Dead silence on the other end. Then, "Marcus Morrison? The Marcus Morrison? The guy who—" "Yes." "Oh," Sergeant Williams let out a low whistle. "Oh, those boys just stepped in it. That's putting it mildly. What do you need?" 3 arrest warrants, search warrants for their homes, and a social media preservation order. These idiots posted their crime online. I want every piece of digital evidence locked down before they realize what they've done. You'll have it within the hour. Make it 30 minutes. Chen. Sergeant, an 80-year-old Purple Heart veteran is in the hospital right now with broken ribs because 3 privileged kids thought attacking him would be funny. They filmed it. They mocked him. They destroyed his wife's ashes. I want them in custody before sunrise." 30 minutes, Williams agreed. "But Chen, what?" "Be prepared. I recognize those last names. Brennan, Whitmore, Hayes. Those are old money families, big money families, connected families." Sarah's jaw tightened. "I don't care if they're related to the president. They broke the law. I'm not saying don't arrest them. I'm saying be ready for the blowback." The blowback came faster than Sarah expected. She was still processing the scene when her phone rang. Unknown number. "Detective Chen?" "Detective, this is Richard Brennan, Tyler Brennan's father." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Mr. Brennan, how did you get this number?" "That's not important. What's important is that I understand you're investigating an incident involving my son. I can't discuss an ongoing investigation." "I'm not asking you to discuss it. I'm asking you to drop it." Sarah almost laughed. "Excuse me?" "My son made a mistake, a stupid, juvenile mistake. But he didn't mean any harm. It was just a prank that got out of hand. No need to ruin his life over it." "A prank?" Sarah's voice was ice. "Your son and his friends broke into an elderly veteran's home. They assaulted him. They destroyed his deceased wife's ashes. They filmed him crying and posted it online for entertainment. That's not a prank, Mr. Brennan. That's a crime. Multiple crimes. Everything can be resolved without pressing charges. I'm prepared to compensate the victim, handsomely, whatever he needs, medical bills, emotional distress, a new urn. Just name the price. Mr. Brennan, I'm going to say this once. Your son committed multiple felonies. I have video evidence of those felonies that he himself posted online. No amount of money is going to make this disappear." "Detective," his voice hardened, "I don't think you understand who you're dealing with. My family has significant influence in this city. The mayor is a personal friend. The police chief golfs with my brother. If you pursue this, you'll find your career becomes very difficult. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you, for your own good." "Mr. Brennan, threatening a police officer is also a crime. I suggest you hang up and call your son a lawyer. He's going to need one." She ended the call. Her hands were shaking. From anger, from disgust, from the realization that Williams had been right. This was going to get ugly. Her phone rang again. Different number. "Detective Chen?" "Sarah, it's Martin." "Police Chief Martin Davies, her boss's boss's boss." "I hear you're working a case involving the Brennan boy." "Yes, sir. Home invasion, assault, multiple felonies. We have video evidence." "I need you to slow down on this one." Sarah's heart sank. "Sir, just for a few days. Let everyone cool off. These are good families, good kids who made a mistake. Let's not destroy their futures over one bad night." "Chief, with all due respect, this isn't one bad night. This is a coordinated attack on an elderly disabled veteran. They broke into his home. They beat him. They destroyed his wife's ashes. They filmed it and posted it online. I understand it looks bad. It doesn't look bad, sir. It is bad. Detective, I'm ordering you to stand down for 48 hours. Let the families work this out privately. If the victim wants to pursue it after that, fine. But we're not going to rush into arrests that could damage this department's relationship with some very important people." Sarah closed her eyes. 20 years on the force. 20 years watching powerful people get away with things that would destroy anyone else. 20 years of telling herself it was worth it because she still caught some bad guys. But this was too much. "Sir, if I stand down, they'll delete the evidence. They'll coordinate their stories. They'll make this victim's life hell until he agrees to drop it. That's not justice. That's extortion." "That's politics, Detective. And if you want to keep your badge, you'll learn the difference." He hung up. Sarah stood in Frank Morrison's destroyed living room, surrounded by ash and broken glass and shattered ceramic, and made a decision. She dialed Marcus's number. Marcus was in the hospital waiting room when his phone rang. Frank was being examined. Tests were being run. Ribs were being x-rayed. Marcus had been pacing for 20 minutes, Rex at his heels, unable to sit still. "Chen?" "Marcus, we have a problem." He listened as she explained. The phone calls, the pressure, the chief's order to stand down. When she finished, Marcus was silent for 10 seconds. Then, "Are you calling to tell me you're backing off?" "Hell no!" Sarah's voice was fierce. "I'm calling to tell you that if you want justice for your father, we're going to have to fight for it. And fight dirty. Tell me what you need." "I need your father to file a formal complaint, tonight, before they can pressure him into changing his mind.
I need it documented that he wants to press charges.
Done. I need you to contact every veterans organization you know. Make noise. Make this public. The more attention this gets, the harder it'll be for them to bury it. Already started. And Marcus, Sarah hesitated, I need you to be prepared. These families are going to come after your father. Hard. They'll try to discredit him. They'll dig up everything. They'll make his life hell. Let them try. Marcus's voice was cold. They made their first mistake when they attacked my father. They'll make their second when they try to intimidate him. And by the time I'm done, they'll wish they'd never heard the name Morrison. What are you planning? Everything legal, Marcus said. Everything by the book. But I know people, Detective. I know lawyers. I know journalists. I know congressmen who owe me favors from things I can't talk about. And I know how to make powerful people very, very uncomfortable. Marcus, they hurt my father. They destroyed my mother's remains. They laughed about it online. His voice dropped. I've spent 15 years hunting bad guys in places that don't exist. You think 3 spoiled kids and their daddy's money scare me? Sarah found herself smiling despite everything. No, I don't. Good. Then let's go to war. Frank was lying in a hospital bed when Marcus entered. His face was gray, his breathing shallow. An IV dripped into his arm, but his eyes were open and alert. How bad? Frank asked. 3 broken ribs, bruised kidney, concussion, multiple contusions. Marcus sat in the chair beside the bed. Rex immediately put his head on Frank's leg. You're going to hurt for a while, Dad. I'm 80. I already hurt. Frank tried to smile. Failed. Marcus, about those boys. They're not boys. They're criminals. They're young. Stupid. They didn't know. They knew exactly what they were doing. Marcus's voice was sharp.
Dad, they didn't just attack you. They humiliated you. They filmed it. They posted it online for thousands of people to see. They wanted you broken, wanted you destroyed. That's not a mistake. That's malice. But their families are trying to bury this, trying to protect their precious sons from consequences. Marcus leaned forward. Dad, the police chief called Detective Chen, told her to back off, said we should handle this privately. You know what that means? Frank knew. He'd lived long enough to know. It means they'll pay me off, make me sign something, make me promise not to talk. Exactly. They'll throw money at you until you go away. And if you don't go away, they'll destroy you. They'll leak your medical records. They'll find every mistake you've ever made. They'll paint you as a crazy old man looking for attention. Maybe I should just... Don't. Marcus grabbed his father's hand. Don't you dare say you should just drop it. Don't you dare let them win. I'm tired, son. I know. I'm old. I know. I just want peace. Then fight for it. Marcus's voice cracked. Dad, Mom's ashes are on your living room floor because 3 men thought it would be funny. If you let them walk away, if you let their money erase what they did, then they'll do it again, to someone else, someone who doesn't have a son who can fight back, someone who'll break completely. Frank's eyes filled with tears. What if I'm not strong enough? Then lean on me. Marcus's grip tightened. That's what sons are for, Dad. You carried me for 18 years. Let me carry you now. But your career, my career will survive. Marcus smiled grimly. Trust me, after 15 years, I've made enough friends in high places. And more importantly, I've got enough dirt on powerful people to make sure nobody touches me. Frank stared at his son. This man, this warrior, this person he'd created but barely knew anymore. When did you get so ruthless? I learned from the best.
Marcus squeezed his hand. You taught me to never back down from bullies. You taught me to protect the weak. You taught me that honor matters more than comfort. So that's what I'm doing, Dad. I'm honoring you. I'm protecting you. And I'm making damn sure those 3 men never forget what happens when they mess with a Morrison. A nurse knocked and entered. Young. Nervous. She glanced at Marcus's uniform and straightened. Sir, we need to take your father's statement for our records. Document his injuries. It's hospital policy for assault cases.
Good, Marcus stood. Dad, tell them everything, every detail. Don't leave anything out. But every detail, Dad, please. Frank looked at the nurse, at Marcus, at Rex, who'd put his head on the bed like he was standing guard. And he realized something. He wasn't alone anymore. For 3 years, he'd been alone. Helen was gone. Marcus was deployed. He'd convinced himself that being alone was better, safer, easier than risking the pain of losing someone else. But now Marcus was here, fighting for him, fighting with him, refusing to let him face this alone. Okay, Frank whispered. Okay, I'll tell them everything. Marcus smiled. That's my dad. While Frank gave his statement, Marcus made more calls. His phone was on fire with incoming messages. Word had spread through the military community like wildfire. Navy SEALs didn't have many rules, but one was absolute. You protect your brothers. And brothers included fathers. Marcus, it's Danny. Heard what happened. What do you need? Marcus, it's Rodriguez from Team 3. We're in. What's the plan? Commander Morrison, it's JAG. We're mobilizing. Give us 24 hours. Marcus, it's Congressman Walsh. I saw the video. Those bastards. Tell me how I can help. Every call, every message, every offer of support. It built into something bigger than Marcus. Bigger than Frank. Bigger than 3 stupid kids who'd attacked the wrong man's father. It became a movement. By sunrise, the video had been shared by military websites, veteran advocacy groups, news stations. The original post by Tyler Brennan, the one mocking Frank, had been screen captured and preserved even after he frantically deleted it. Too late. The internet never forgets. And then came the doxing. Marcus didn't ask for it, didn't condone it, but he didn't stop it either. Tyler Brennan's address was posted online. So was Jackson Whitmore's. And Devin Hayes's. Their schools, their workplaces, their families' businesses. Angry veterans started showing up. Not violently, just presence. Standing outside their houses, silent, watching, waiting. The message was clear. You attacked one of ours. We don't forget. We don't forgive. By the time the sun rose fully over the city, 3 very scared young men were learning what it meant to have an enemy who didn't fight fair. And in a hospital room, an 80-year-old veteran was learning what it meant to have an army at his back. Tyler Brennan's hands wouldn't stop shaking. He sat in his father's study, leather chairs, mahogany desk, oil paintings of ancestors who'd built empires, and watched his phone explode with notifications. Death threats, doxing, his address posted everywhere, videos of veterans standing outside his house at 3 a.m, just watching, just waiting. Dad, make them stop, Tyler whispered. Please, make them stop. Richard Brennan stood at the window, watching the sidewalk. 6 veterans in various states of uniform and civilian clothes. Silent. Motionless. A 7th had just arrived with coffee for the others. I'm trying, Richard said through clenched teeth. I've called everyone. The mayor, the police chief, even the goddamn governor's office. And nobody wants to touch this. Richard turned from the window. His face was gray, older than Tyler had ever seen it. That video, Tyler.
Why the hell did you post that video?
I thought it was funny. I thought people would...
You thought wrong. Richard's voice cracked. Do you understand what you've done? Not just to that old man. To us. To our family. To our business. Tyler's phone buzzed again. He looked at the screen and felt bile rise in his throat. His company's stock had dropped 12% overnight. 12% because someone had leaked that the CEO's son had attacked a veteran. It was just a prank, Tyler said weakly. Stop calling it a prank! Richard slammed his hand on the desk. You broke into a man's home. You assaulted him. You destroyed his wife's ashes. That's not a prank. That's a felony. Multiple felonies. But you can fix this. You always fix things. Richard looked at his son. Really looked at him. 26 years old. Never worked a real day in his life. Never faced real consequences. Never learned that money couldn't solve everything. Maybe that was Richard's fault. Maybe he'd protected Tyler too much. Shielded him too often. Let him grow up thinking the world would always bend to their will. I can't fix this, Richard said quietly. Not this time. Tyler's eyes widened. What? The Morrison kid. The son. He's not backing down.
I had someone reach out. Offered $2 million. He laughed. Offered $5 million. He hung up. Then offer more. It's not about money, Richard's voice rose. He doesn't want money. He wants justice. And more importantly, he has friends. Powerful friends. Military friends who are making our lives hell. So call your friends. You always say you know everyone important. I did call them. They're all suddenly busy, too busy to help. Too busy to take my calls.
Because nobody wants to be associated with the family that attacked a veteran. Richard's laugh was bitter. 30 years building relationships, building influence, gone in one night because my son wanted viral content. Tyler felt something cold settle in his stomach. Dad, what's going to happen? Richard met his son's eyes. You're going to be arrested. Probably today, and I can't stop it.
Across town, Jackson Whitmore's uncle, City Councilman David Whitmore, was having a similar conversation.
You're a goddamn idiot, David said flatly. That's what you are, a complete idiot. Jackson sat on the couch in David's office, trying to look defiant. Failing. His hands were shaking too. His parents had kicked him out, told him to go stay with David. Figure this out. Fix this. It wasn't my idea, Jackson tried. Tyler said, I don't care what Tyler said. You're an adult. You made a choice, and now you're facing adult consequences.
Can't you talk to someone? You're on the city council. You know people.
I do know people, and every single one of them has made it very clear that I need to distance myself from this. Publicly. Immediately. And you attacked a disabled veteran in his home and posted it online for entertainment? What did you think would happen? That everyone would just laugh and move on? People laugh at stuff like that all the time. It's just internet content. It's just felony assault, David interrupted. It's just elder abuse. It's just destruction of human remains. Pick your charge, Jackson. You've got plenty to choose from. Jackson's defiance crumbled. I'm scared. Good. You should be. David softened slightly. Look, I've hired you a lawyer. Best criminal defense attorney in the state. He'll do what he can. But Jackson, you need to understand something. That video is everywhere. There's no making it go away. No amount of money or influence can erase what thousands... The VFW is calling for maximum sentencing. The American Legion is organizing a rally. Every military organization in the country is watching this case. This isn't going away. This is just getting started. Devin Hayes got the news from his lawyer directly. "They're coming to arrest you in approximately 2 hours," the lawyer said over the phone. "I've negotiated for you to turn yourself in. It'll look better than being dragged out in handcuffs."
"What am I being charged with?" Devin's voice was hollow. "Breaking and entering, assault and battery, elder abuse, destruction of property, desecration of human remains, conspiracy, and the DA is considering hate crime enhancements because the victim was targeted due to his age and veteran status." Devin closed his eyes. "How much time?" "If convicted on all counts, 20 to 30 years. "Years?" Devin's voice cracked. "I'm 25 years old."
You should have thought about that before you attacked an 80-year-old man.
"It wasn't supposed to be like this. We were just—" "Don't." The lawyer's voice was sharp. "Don't tell me it was just anything. Don't tell me you didn't mean it. Don't give me excuses, because the jury is going to see that video. They're going to see you laughing while an old man begged for his wife's ashes. And no excuse in the world is going to make that okay." Devin felt tears burn his eyes. "What do I do?" "You show up at the police station in 2 hours. You keep your mouth shut. You let me do the talking. And you pray that the Morrison family is more forgiving than they have any right to be." Marcus was at the police station when they brought the 3 men in. He'd been there for hours, coordinating with Detective Chen, reviewing evidence, making sure every piece was documented and preserved. He watched through the one-way glass as Tyler Brennan was processed. The kid was crying. Actually crying. Mascara of privilege running down his face. "He looks scared," Sarah Chen said beside him. "Good," Marcus replied without emotion. "Marcus," Sarah hesitated. "I know you're angry. I know you want revenge. But this is a legal process now. We do this by the book." "I am doing this by the book." Marcus turned to face her. "Every call I've made has been legal. Every connection I've used has been appropriate. Every piece of pressure has been within bounds." The veterans outside their houses are exercising their First Amendment rights. They're standing on public property. They're not threatening anyone. They're just present. Marcus's smile was cold. "Funny how intimidating presence can be when you're on the receiving end, isn't it?" Sarah studied him. "You've changed since your father was hurt. There's something colder, focused, like you're on a mission." "I am on a mission." Marcus looked back through the glass. "For 15 years, I hunted bad guys overseas. They violated everything he'd earned through 60 years of service and sacrifice." Marcus's voice dropped. "So yeah, I'm focused. Because this isn't just about my father anymore. It's about every veteran who's ever been forgotten or mistreated or cast aside. And I'm going to make sure those 3 men become an example of what happens when you attack someone who served." Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then, "Your father is lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have him. I just forgot for a while." The arraignment was scheduled for the next morning. All 3 defendants were held without bail. Another small victory Marcus had orchestrated through back channels and carefully placed pressure. Frank was released from the hospital that evening. Marcus drove him home. Neither spoke for the first 10 minutes. Then Frank broke the silence. "He didn't have to do all this." "Yeah, Dad, I did." "But your career?" "My career is fine. Better than fine, actually." Marcus glanced at his father. "Turns out fighting for your father, who's a veteran, plays pretty well with the brass. I've had 3 commanders call me today to offer support. 2 of them said if I need time off to handle this, I've got it." "What about the Brennan family? The Whitmores? They have money. Lawyers." "So do I. Better lawyers." Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Dad, you need to understand something. Those families think money equals power. And in a lot of situations, they're right. But there's one place where money doesn't matter as much as people think." "Where?"
public opinion. And right now, public opinion is firmly on our side. That video has been viewed over 10 million times. 10 million people have seen what they did to you. And about 9 million of them are furious. Frank was quiet. Then, I saw some of the comments. Dad, don't read. Most of them were kind, supportive, angry on my behalf. Frank's voice wavered. But some of them weren't. Some said I was weak, said I should have fought back, said a real man wouldn't have cried. Marcus pulled the truck over, put it in park, turned to face his father. Listen to me. Every single person who says that is either a coward or a liar. Because fighting back when you're outnumbered isn't bravery. It's suicide. You're 80 years old with a bad leg. There were 3 of them. You did exactly what you should have done. You survived. But I cried. I begged. You're human. They attacked you in your home. They destroyed Mom's ashes. Anyone would have cried. Anyone would have begged. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Marcus's voice softened. Dad, you spent 60 years being strong. Let yourself be human for once. Tears slid down Frank's face. When did you get so wise? I learned from my father. They drove the rest of the way home in comfortable silence. Rex was in the back seat, head between them, offering silent support. When they arrived, Frank's house had been cleaned. The ash gathered carefully. The broken urn fragments collected. The furniture righted. Fresh flowers on the mantel. Marcus, some of the guys from my unit came by. Hope that's okay. Frank looked at his home, his sanctuary, violated days ago, now restored by strangers who'd never met him, but honored him anyway, because he was a veteran, because he was Marcus's father, because that's what brothers did.
Thank you,
Frank whispered. Thank them when you meet them. They'll be by tomorrow to install a security system. Cameras, motion sensors, direct line to emergency services. Marcus walked his father inside. You're never going to feel unsafe in your home again. I promise. That night, Frank couldn't sleep. The pain medication helped with his ribs, but did nothing for his mind. He kept replaying the attack, kept seeing the urn shattering, kept hearing the laughter. Around 2 a.m, he got up. Careful not to wake Marcus, who'd insisted on staying in the guest room. He walked to the living room where the new urn sat, identical to the one destroyed, ordered rush delivery by Marcus. Inside was Helen's ash, every bit they'd been able to recover. Marcus had spent hours on his hands and knees with a vacuum and filters, gathering every particle. Hey, Helen, Frank whispered to the urn. I messed up again. No response. There never was, but he talked to her anyway. Remember when Marcus was little, 8 years old? Those boys were bullying him at school. I told him to fight back, to never let anyone push him around. And he did. Got suspended. Came home with a black eye and a grin. Frank smiled at the memory. You were so mad at me, said I was teaching him violence. I said I was teaching him strength. He touched the urn gently. Turns out, we were both right. He's strong, but he's not violent. He's fighting for me now, and he's doing it the right way. Legal. Smart. Using his head instead of his fists. Frank's voice broke. You'd be so proud of him, Helen. So proud of the man he's become. I am proud. Frank turned. Marcus stood in the doorway, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair messed from sleep. Couldn't sleep? Marcus asked. Pain woke me. Liar, you're thinking too much. Marcus sat beside his father on the couch. Rex appeared from the guest room and settled at their feet. You want to talk about it? Not really. Then don't. We can just sit. They sat in silence for several minutes. Comfortable. Easy. The way fathers and sons should be. Finally, Frank spoke. I pushed you away after your mother died. Dad, let me finish. Please. Frank took a breath. I pushed you away because I didn't want you to see me broken. Didn't want you to see me weak. Didn't want you to waste your life taking care of an old man who couldn't even stand without help. Dad, that's not... I was wrong. Frank's voice was firm. I was selfish and stupid and wrong. You needed me after she died, and I abandoned you because I was too proud to admit I was struggling. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then, I thought you didn't want me around. Thought I reminded you too much of her. Thought I was just in the way. Never. Frank grabbed his son's hand. Never, Marcus. You were the only thing keeping me alive. The only reason I got up every morning. But I was drowning in grief, and I didn't know how to ask for help. So I pushed you away instead. 3 years, Dad. 3 years we barely talked. I know, and I can't get those years back. Can't fix that mistake. Frank squeezed Marcus's hand. But I'm here now, and you're here, and maybe we can start over. We don't have to start over. Marcus's voice was thick. We just have to move forward, together this time. Together, Frank agreed. They sat like that until sunrise. 2 men who'd almost lost each other, who'd let pride and grief and distance build walls between them, who were finally tearing those walls down. The arraignment happened at 9 o'clock the next morning. The courtroom was packed. Veterans filled every available seat. Media cameras lined the hallway outside. News vans blocked the street. Marcus sat behind the prosecutor's table, Frank beside him. Rex at Marcus's feet. The judge had granted special permission for the service dog to remain in the courtroom. Tyler, Jackson, and Devin were led in wearing orange jumpsuits. Their lawyers, expensive suits, slicked hair, practiced expressions, whispered urgently to them. Judge Patricia Walsh entered. Everyone stood. She was 65, former military prosecutor, known for being fair but firm. Please be seated, Judge Walsh said. She looked at the packed courtroom, at the veterans in their uniforms, at the media presence, at the 3 defendants who suddenly looked very young and very scared. Before we begin, I want to make something clear. This courtroom will maintain order. No outbursts, no demonstrations, no disruptions. Anyone who cannot follow these rules will be removed. Understood? Murmurs of agreement. Good. Let's proceed. Judge Walsh looked at the prosecutor. State your case. Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Park stood. She was 40, sharp as a knife, and had a personal stake in this case. Her own father was a Korean War veteran. Your Honor, the state charges Tyler Brennan, Jackson Whitmore, and Devin Hayes with the following: breaking and entering, a Class B felony; assault and battery causing serious bodily harm to a person over 65, a Class A felony; elder abuse, a Class A felony; destruction of property, a Class C felony; desecration of human remains, a Class B felony; and conspiracy to commit all of the above. She paused. Additionally, the state is pursuing hate crime enhancements based on the fact that the victim was specifically targeted due to his age and veteran status, as evidenced by statements made during the attack that were captured on video. The defense attorney for Tyler Brennan stood. His name was Marcus Hart, no relation, and he was known as the best criminal defense lawyer money could buy. Your Honor, while my client acknowledges being present at the victim's home, this is clearly a case of a prank that went too far. Young men making a stupid mistake, not malicious criminals deserving of felony charges.
A prank. Judge Walsh's voice was ice. Counselor, I've reviewed the video evidence. I watched your client laugh while an 80-year-old disabled veteran begged for his deceased wife's ashes. I watched him film and post this prank online for entertainment. That doesn't sound like a mistake to me. That sounds like deliberate cruelty. Marcus Hart's face tightened. Your Honor, my client is 26 years old. He has no prior criminal record. He comes from a good family. He has a bright future ahead of him. One mistake shouldn't destroy his entire life. No prior record that we know of, ADA Park interjected. But the state has evidence that this was not an isolated incident. We have testimony from other victims, other elderly people that these defendants have targeted. Other pranks that never got reported because the victims were too scared or too ashamed. The courtroom erupted, veterans shouting, media scrambling. Judge Walsh's gavel crashed down. Order! I will have order! The room settled. Frank felt his heart hammering. Other victims. There were other people these men had hurt. He wasn't alone, wasn't special. Just the first one who'd had someone willing to fight back. Judge Walsh looked at the three defendants. I'm setting bail at $500,000 each. Defendants will surrender their passports. They will wear ankle monitors. They will have no contact with the victim or any witnesses. Trial date is set for... Your Honor, Marcus Hart interrupted. $500,000 is excessive. My client is not a flight risk. Your client attacked a defenseless elderly veteran in his own home and posted it online for entertainment. As far as I'm concerned, $500,000 is generous. Judge Walsh's gaze swept over all three defendants. You wanted to be famous. You wanted viral content. Congratulations. The whole world is watching now. Let's see if they find this next part entertaining. She brought the gavel down. Court is adjourned. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed like wasps. Microphones thrust toward Frank's face. Questions shouted over each other. Cameras flashing until Marcus stepped between them and his father, Rex growling low. Mr. Morrison, how do you feel about the bail amount? Mr. Morrison, do you think justice will be served? Mr. Morrison, what do you want to say to your attackers? Frank opened his mouth, closed it. He'd never been good with crowds, never been comfortable with attention. For 60 years, he'd lived his life quietly, invisibly, exactly how he'd wanted. Now the whole world was watching. My father has no comment, Marcus said firmly. Please respect his privacy. Commander Morrison, is it true you used your military connections to pressure the judge? Marcus's jaw tightened. I used no pressure. The evidence speaks for itself. What about the other victims? Can you confirm no comment? Marcus guided Frank toward his truck. Rex stayed between them and the crowd, trained to create space, to protect. They were halfway to the parking lot when a woman's voice cut through the chaos. Mr. Morrison, wait, please! Marcus turned. The woman was in her 70s, using a walker, breathing hard from the effort of catching up to them. Behind her stood a younger woman, daughter maybe, or granddaughter, holding her arm. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but my father needs to... They did it to me, too, the old woman said. Her voice shook. 6 months ago, 3 young men. They came to my house, said they were collecting for charity. When I opened the door, they pushed inside. They took my wedding ring, my husband's ashes. They filmed me crying and posted it online. Frank felt the ground tilt beneath him. I saw your video, the woman continued. Saw what they did to you, and I recognized them. Tyler Brennan was the one who pushed me. Jackson Whitmore took my ring. I filed a police report. Nothing happened. The officer said I probably misidentified them. Said boys like that don't do things like that. Ma'am,
Marcus's voice was gentle. "What's your name?" "Dorothy Chen. This is my daughter, Lisa." Dorothy's hands trembled on her walker. "I didn't think anyone would believe me. I'm old. My memory isn't perfect. But I know what I saw. I know who hurt me." "Lisa Chen?" Marcus looked at the daughter. "Any relation to Detective Sarah Chen?" "She's my aunt," Lisa confirmed. "She's the one who told us about your case. Said there might be other victims. Said if we came forward now, maybe this time someone would listen." Frank reached out and took Dorothy's hand. It was cold, shaking. He recognized the tremor, had the same one himself. "They made you feel invisible," Frank said quietly. Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, exactly that. Like I didn't matter. Like I was nothing." "You're not nothing." Frank squeezed her hand. "You're a person. You matter. And I believe you." Dorothy broke down crying. Lisa wrapped her arms around her mother, her own tears falling. Marcus pulled out his phone. "I'm calling ADA Park. She needs to hear your story. Today." "Will it help?" Dorothy asked through her tears. "Will it make any difference?" "It'll make all the difference," Marcus promised. "Because now they can't claim this was just one stupid mistake. Now we can show a pattern, a history, a deliberate choice to prey on the vulnerable." By the end of that day, 3 more victims had come forward. An 82-year-old man who'd been robbed and humiliated. A 75-year-old woman who'd been pushed down in her own home. A 90-year-old veteran who'd had his Purple Heart stolen and thrown in a dumpster. All of them had filed police reports. All of them had been dismissed. All of them had been told they were mistaken. That boys from good families don't do things like that. That maybe they were confused. Maybe they were looking for attention. The media explosion was nuclear. Every news outlet picked up the story. Cable news ran it 24/7. Social media erupted. The hashtag Justice for Frank became Justice for All Elders. The video views hit 50 million, 100 million. And the Brennan, Whitmore, and Hayes families went into crisis mode. Richard Brennan held a press conference, stood in front of cameras with his lawyer beside him and his wife crying behind him. "My son made a terrible mistake," Richard said, reading from a prepared statement. "A mistake that I take full responsibility for as his father. I clearly failed to instill in him the values of respect and compassion. For that, I am deeply sorry." "Mr. Brennan," a reporter called out, "are you saying your son's actions were your fault?" "I'm saying that, as a father, I should have done better. Should have taught him better." "What about the other victims? Did you fail them too?" Richard's face went pale. "I have no knowledge of other victims. Tyler has assured me that this was an isolated incident." "So your son is a liar as well as a criminal?" Richard's lawyer stepped to the microphone. "This press conference is over." But the damage was done. Video clips of Richard's statement played on loop. Commentators tore it apart. Legal experts explained how his words could be used against his son in court. The Whitmore family tried a different tactic. They released a statement claiming Jackson was struggling with mental health issues, that he'd been diagnosed with depression, that he needed treatment, not punishment. The veterans community responded with fury. Hundreds of them posted their own mental health struggles: PTSD, depression, anxiety, traumatic brain injury, and pointed out that none of those conditions had made them attack elderly people in their homes. The Hayes family stayed silent. Devon's lawyer advised him to say nothing, do nothing, let the storm pass. But storms don't pass when you're standing in the center of one. Marcus's phone rang at 11 p.m., 3 days before the trial was set to begin. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Then he remembered that sometimes important calls came from unknown numbers. "Morrison. Commander Morrison, My name is Gerald Brennan, Richard Brennan's father, Tyler's grandfather. Marcus sat up in bed. Rex lifted his head, sensing tension. Mr. Brennan, how did you get this number? That's not important. What's important is that I need to speak with you, in person, tonight. It's 11 o'clock. I'm aware. I'm also 87 years old, and I don't sleep much anymore. I'll be at the diner on 5th Street in 30 minutes. Come alone. I don't think, please. The old man's voice cracked. Please, Commander. Father to father. Veteran to veteran. Just give me 30 minutes. Marcus looked at Rex. The dog tilted his head.
Then Marcus looked toward the guest room where Frank was sleeping. His father who'd been attacked. His father who deserved justice.
20 minutes, Marcus said. And if this is some kind of setup, it's not. I promise you, it's not. The diner was nearly empty. An old man sat in a corner booth, coffee in front of him, untouched. Gerald Brennan looked like his name suggested. Old money, old values, old guilt. He stood when Marcus entered. Commander Morrison, thank you for coming. Marcus didn't sit. You have 15 minutes. Talk. I saw the video. My grandson. What he did to your father. Gerald's hands shook around his coffee cup. I haven't slept since. Haven't been able to close my eyes without seeing that old man crying on his floor. Without seeing my grandson laughing. Then you understand why I can't let this go. I understand completely. If someone had done that to me, to my father, I'd want blood. Gerald met Marcus's eyes.
But I'm not here to ask you to drop the charges. I'm here to ask you to let me testify against my grandson. Marcus sat down. Excuse me? I want to testify for the prosecution. Tell them about Tyler's history, about the other incidents that got swept under the rug, the other times he hurt people and I paid them off to keep quiet. Gerald's voice was steady now, resolved. My son, Richard, he's protecting Tyler because that's what fathers do. But I'm done protecting him. Because that's not protection, that's enabling, and I won't enable cruelty anymore. Why? Marcus asked. Why turn on your own family? Because I'm a veteran too. Korean War. I know what your father went through. I know what service costs. And I know that if we don't hold our children accountable, we fail not just them, but everyone they hurt. Gerald pushed his coffee away. I'm 87 years old. I don't have many years left, but I'll be damned if I die knowing I could have stopped my grandson from hurting people and didn't because I was too cowardly to stand up to my own family. Marcus studied the old man, saw the tremor in his hands, saw the weight of decades of guilt, saw the determination of someone who'd finally found his line in the sand. Ada Park will want to interview you. I'll tell her everything, every incident, every payoff, every time I chose family loyalty over doing what's right. Gerald's voice broke. I'm so sorry, Commander, for what my grandson did, for what I enabled by protecting him for too long. I can't undo the past, but I can make sure it stops now. Marcus pulled out his phone, sent a text to Jennifer Park. Within 2 minutes, she called back. We need to meet, Marcus told her. Now. I have someone you need to talk to. The prosecution's case got exponentially stronger overnight. Gerald Brennan's testimony provided the pattern they needed, showed deliberate targeting of vulnerable elderly people, showed payoffs and cover-ups, showed a family that valued reputation over justice. The defense tried to block Gerald's testimony, argued family privilege, argued coercion, argued everything they could think of. Judge Walsh denied every motion. Mr. Brennan is a competent adult making a voluntary statement. His testimony is relevant and material to establishing pattern and intent. It will be allowed. Trial began on a Monday morning. The courtroom was packed again. More veterans, more media, more people who'd been watching this case unfold
and wanted to see how it ended. Frank sat in the witness box, right hand raised, left hand trembling. "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?" "I do." A DA Park approached. Her voice was gentle, professional, but underneath Marcus could hear the anger she was carefully controlling. "Mr. Morrison, can you tell the jury what happened on the night of October 14th? Frank took a breath, looked at Marcus in the gallery. Marcus nodded. "You've got this, Dad." "I was washing dishes. Around 8:30. I heard glass break in my kitchen. Not an accident. Deliberate. Someone forcing their way in." "What did you do?" "I grabbed my cane, tried to reach the phone, but they were already inside." "They?" "3 young men, wearing hoodies, bandanas over their faces." Frank's voice steadied. He'd told this story a dozen times now, to police, to prosecutors, to himself in the dark hours of the night. The tall one had a crowbar. "Can you identify any of the men in this courtroom?" Frank looked at the defense table. Tyler wouldn't meet his eyes. Jackson stared at the floor. Only Devon looked back, and there was something in his expression that might have been shame. The tall one was Devon Hayes. The stocky one was Jackson Whitmore. The one with the phone filming was Tyler Brennan. "What happened next, Mr. Morrison?" Frank told it all, every detail. The medals torn from the wall, the medication crushed, the urn thrown, Helen's ashes spreading across his floor like snow. His voice broke when he described crawling through the ash, trying to gather his wife back together, trying to make her whole again. "They laughed," Frank whispered. "They filmed me crying, and they laughed." And Tyler said, "Take your time, Mr. Morrison." He said, "This is content, bro. Old man crying on his floor." Frank's hands clenched. "My wife of 52 years was scattered across my floor." And he called it content. Several jurors were crying. 2 of them veterans themselves. Marcus had made sure of that during selection. "Thank you, Mr. Morrison. No further questions." The defense attorney, Marcus Hart, stood for cross-examination. He smiled. Professional, sympathetic, everything calculated to seem reasonable. "Mr. Morrison, I'm sorry for what you experienced. Nobody should have to go through what you went through." "Thank you," Frank said carefully, "but I need to ask some difficult questions. You understand?" "I understand." "You're 80 years old, correct?" "Yes." "And you take medication for high blood pressure, heart problems, memory issues, correct?" "I take medication for blood pressure and my heart, not for memory." "But at 80, it's fair to say your memory isn't what it used to be?" ADA Park shot to her feet. "Objection! Leading!" "Sustained." Marcus Hart adjusted his approach. "Mr. Morrison, you were in significant pain during this incident, correct?" "Yes." "You were frightened, traumatized, in shock?" "Yes." "And it was dark. Your glasses had been knocked off. You couldn't see clearly." "I could see well enough." "But not perfectly, not clearly. You admitted in your police statement that everything was blurry." "My vision was blurry, but I know what happened. I know who was there." "Do you? Or is it possible that in your pain and fear and confusion, you identified the wrong people? That you saw 3 young men and your mind filled in faces you'd seen online afterward?" "Objection!" Jennifer Park's voice was sharp. "Counsel is testifying." "Withdrawn." Marcus Hart smiled again. "Mr. Morrison, how long did this entire incident last?" "I don't know. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe longer." "And in those 10 minutes of confusion and fear, you're absolutely certain about every detail?" "About the important details, yes." "But not every detail?" Frank hesitated. It was the briefest pause, a fraction of a second. But Marcus Hart seized on it like a lifeline.
Mr. Morrison, is it possible, just possible, that your memory of this event has been influenced by the attention, the media coverage, the pressure to be certain? Frank looked at the defense attorney, then at Tyler, who was watching now, hope creeping into his expression. No, Frank said firmly. I remember everything. I remember Tyler's voice telling his friends to film me. I remember Jackson saying I was pathetic. I remember Devon throwing my wife's ashes against the wall. I remember all of it, and no amount of clever questions is going to make me doubt what I know is true. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Judge Walsh's gavel came down. Order! Marcus Hart tried a few more angles, questioned Frank's relationship with his son, suggested Marcus had coached his testimony, implied that Frank was bitter and looking for someone to blame. Every question Frank answered with the same steady certainty. This happened. This is what they did. I'm not confused. I'm not mistaken. I'm just an old man telling the truth. When Frank finally stepped down, Marcus met him at the gate separating the gallery from the witness area, pulled his father into a tight hug. You did good, Dad. Did I? I hesitated when he asked about details. You hesitated for 1 second. Then you told the truth. That's all that matters. The prosecution called witness after witness. Dorothy Chen testified about her attack, broke down crying when describing how she'd begged for her husband's ashes back. The other elderly victims told their stories, each one similar, each one heartbreaking. Then Gerald Brennan took the stand. The courtroom went silent. Richard Brennan sat in the back row, his face ashen. Tyler stared at his grandfather with betrayal and fear. Mr. Brennan, Jennifer Park said gently, you're the defendant Tyler Brennan's grandfather, correct? I am. And you've come here today to testify for the prosecution against your own grandson. I have. Why? Gerald looked at Tyler, at Richard, at all the people in the courtroom watching him betray his family. Because he's my grandson. But Frank Morrison is someone's father. Dorothy Chen is someone's mother. Every person Tyler hurt is someone's family. And I chose to protect my family over protecting theirs for too long. His voice strengthened. I'm here to make it right, even if it's too late. Even if I can never truly make it right. Tell us what you know about Tyler's history. Gerald told them everything. The incident when Tyler was 16, attacking a homeless man. Gerald paying $20,000 to make it go away. The incident at 21, vandalizing an elderly neighbor's home. Another payoff. The incident at 24, pushing an old woman at a grocery store and stealing her purse. $50,000 that time. Each time, I told myself it was just immaturity, just Tyler being young and stupid, just something he'd grow out of. Gerald's voice broke. But he didn't grow out of it. He got worse, and I enabled it every time I wrote a check instead of demanding accountability. Did Tyler know you were covering for him? He counted on it. That's what made it worse. He knew I'd protect him, knew his father would protect him, knew that money would make problems disappear. So he kept creating problems, because there were never real consequences. Tyler's lawyer tried to object, tried to claim hearsay, tried to stop the testimony. Judge Walsh overruled every objection. The witness is testifying to his own actions and observations. It's allowed. When Gerald finished, he stepped down from the witness stand and walked past his son, past his grandson, without looking at either of them. Richard Brennan stood. Dad, please. Gerald kept walking. Out of the courtroom. Out of his grandson's life. Out of a family that had chosen money over morality for too long. The defense rested without calling any witnesses. What could they say?
The video existed. The testimony was damning. The pattern was clear. Closing arguments took all afternoon. The defense painted Tyler, Jackson, and Devin as young men who'd made mistakes, who deserved second chances, who had futures worth preserving. Jennifer Park's closing was fire. The defense wants you to believe this was a mistake, a prank, young men being stupid. But I want you to look at the evidence. Really look at it. She pulled up the video on the courtroom screens. This is Tyler Brennan, laughing while an 80-year-old disabled veteran begs for his wife's ashes. This is Jackson Whitmore, kicking medication across the floor. This is Devin Hayes, destroying the remains of a man's wife of 52 years. She paused. These are not mistakes. These are choices, deliberate, calculated choices to prey on vulnerable people, to hurt them, to humiliate them, to film it and share it for entertainment. Her voice rose. And the defense wants you to give them second chances? But what about Frank Morrison's chance to live safely in his own home? What about Dorothy Chen's chance to keep her husband's memory safe? What about all the victims we'll never know about because they were too scared to come forward? She looked each juror in the eye. These three men targeted the elderly because they thought old people were weak, invisible, easy prey. They thought no one would care, no one would fight back, no one would hold them accountable. She gestured toward Frank. They were wrong. And it's your job to make sure they learn that lesson. To make sure that every person, no matter how old, no matter how vulnerable, has the right to live without fear. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Frank and Marcus sat in the hallway, waiting, wrecks at their feet. Veterans lining the corridor, silent support, quiet strength. What if they don't convict? Frank asked quietly. They'll convict. But what if they don't? What if the defense convinced them I was confused? What if... Dad, Marcus took his father's hand. Stop. You told the truth. The evidence is overwhelming. The jury will do the right thing. How can you be so sure? Because I've learned something these past few weeks, something I forgot during 15 years overseas. Marcus squeezed his father's hand. I forgot that most people are good, that most people care about justice, that when someone stands up against cruelty, others will stand with them. You stood up, Dad, and look around. Frank looked, saw dozens of veterans who'd given up their time to support a man most of them had never met. Saw Dorothy Chen and the other victims, holding hands, supporting each other. Saw Detective Sarah Chen talking quietly with ADA Park. Saw Gerald Brennan sitting alone in a far corner, his family gone, but his conscience finally clear. We're not alone anymore, Marcus said. Neither of us. Not ever again. The bailiff appeared. Jury's back. The courtroom filled in seconds. Frank's heart hammered so hard he thought his ribs might break again. Marcus's hand was on his shoulder. Steady. Strong. But Frank could feel the tremor underneath. All rise. Everyone stood. Judge Walsh entered, took her seat. Her face revealed nothing. Please be seated. Has the jury reached a verdict? The jury foreman stood, a woman in her 60s, former teacher, 2 tours in Afghanistan as a combat medic. She'd cried during Frank's testimony. We have, Your Honor. In the matter of the state versus Tyler Brennan, Jackson Whitmore, and Devin Hayes, on the charge of breaking and entering, how do you find? Guilty on all counts. Tyler's mother gasped. His father's face went gray. On the charge of assault and battery, causing serious bodily harm to a person over 65? Guilty on all counts. Jackson Whitmore put his head in his hands. On the charge of elder abuse? Guilty on all counts. On the charge of destruction of property? Guilty on all counts. on the charge of desecration of human remains? Guilty on all counts. Devin Hayes closed his eyes. Tears streamed down his face.
On the charge of conspiracy to commit the above crimes? Guilty on all counts. And on the enhancement of hate crimes based on age and veteran status? The foreman's voice hardened. Guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted. Veterans cheering, victims crying, media scrambling for the doors to report the verdict. Judge Walsh's gavel crashed down repeatedly. Order! I will have order or I will clear this courtroom. Frank couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't process what he'd just heard. Guilty on everything, all three of them. Convicted. Dad? Marcus's voice seemed far away. Dad, are you okay? They believed me, Frank whispered. The jury believed me. Of course they believed you. You told the truth. But I'm nobody. I'm just an old man, and they have money and lawyers and none of that mattered. Marcus pulled his father into a hug. None of it mattered because the truth mattered more. Around them, veterans were shaking Frank's hand, thanking him, calling him brave, calling him a hero. Dorothy Chen hugged him, sobbing into his shoulder. The other victims clustered around, crying and laughing and holding each other. Mr. Morrison, Judge Walsh called from the bench. If you'd remain, please. I'd like to address you directly. The courtroom settled. Frank stood, leaning heavily on his cane, Marcus beside him. Judge Walsh looked at Frank for a long moment. Then she spoke. Mr. Morrison, I've been on the bench for 23 years. I've seen thousands of victims come through my courtroom. Most of them want one thing: to be believed. To have someone in authority look them in the eye and say, I believe you. What happened to you matters. So I want to say that to you now, publicly, for the record. She leaned forward. I believe you. What happened to you matters. And this court will ensure that justice is served. Frank's vision blurred with tears. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Morrison, for your service to this country, for your courage in coming forward, for your willingness to stand up when it would have been easier to stay silent. Judge Walsh's voice softened. You reminded all of us that dignity isn't something that can be taken away by cruelty. It's something we carry inside ourselves, something we choose to hold on to, even when the world tries to strip it away. You never lost your dignity, Mr. Morrison, not for one moment. Sentencing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. The defense filed appeals immediately, claimed the trial was tainted by media coverage, claimed the jury was biased, claimed everything they could think of to delay the inevitable. Every appeal was denied. The 2 weeks passed slowly. Frank moved back into his home, now equipped with the security system Marcus's team had installed. Cameras, motion sensors, a panic button that went directly to the police and to Marcus's phone. Frank told Marcus it was excessive. Marcus told him to get used to it. They fell into a routine. Marcus would stop by every morning before heading to base. They'd have coffee, talk. Sometimes about important things. Sometimes about nothing at all. Making up for 3 years of silence with slow, steady conversation. I'm thinking about retiring, Marcus said one morning. Frank nearly choked on his coffee. What? Retiring, from active duty. I've got 20 years in. I could go now, with full benefits. Marcus, you love the Navy. You love being a SEAL. I did love it. Still do in some ways. Marcus stared into his coffee cup. But I missed 3 years with you because I was too proud to admit I needed my dad. Too stubborn to come home and face my grief. And I realized something during all this. I don't want to miss any more time. I don't want to wake up one day and realize you're gone and I spent your last years fighting strangers on the other side of the world, instead of being here with you. Son, I don't want you giving up your career for me. I'm not giving it up. I'm choosing something different, something better. Marcus looked at his father. I'm choosing family. I'm choosing being here. I'm choosing making sure you never feel alone or scared or invisible again. What would you do if you retired? Veteran advocacy. There are organizations desperate for people who understand the military, who can navigate the VA system, who can fight for benefits and rights. Marcus smiled slightly. Turns out I'm pretty good at fighting for people. You're very good at it. Frank reached across the table and gripped his son's hand. Are you sure? Really sure? I've never been more sure of anything. The day of sentencing arrived with cold rain. Frank stood at his window, watching water stream down the glass, and thought about Helen. About how she'd always loved the rain, called it cleansing, called it the earth washing itself clean. Ready, Dad? Marcus appeared in the doorway, Rex at his side. As ready as I'll ever be. The courtroom was packed again, more people than could possibly fit. Standing room only. Veterans lined the walls. Media filled the back rows. The three defendants sat at the defense table, looking diminished, smaller somehow, as if being found guilty had physically shrunk them. Judge Walsh entered. Everyone stood. When they sat again, the silence was absolute. Before I proceed with sentencing, I'm going to allow victim impact statements. Mr. Morrison, you'll go first. Frank stood, walked to the podium. His leg ached. His ribs still hurt when he breathed too deeply. But he stood straight, looked at the three men who'd attacked him. I'm 80 years old, Frank began. His voice was steady, stronger than he'd expected. I fought in Vietnam. I came home with a Purple Heart and a leg that never quite worked right. I worked construction for 40 years. Married my wife Helen when I was 22. Lost her 3 years ago to cancer. He paused. For 3 years after she died, I was alone. By choice. I pushed away my son because I didn't want to be a burden. I lived quietly, invisibly. I thought that was what I deserved. To just fade away until I died and nobody would notice. Tyler shifted in his seat, looked away. Then you three broke into my home. You kicked me, beat me, destroyed my wife's ashes, filmed me crying and posted it online for entertainment. Frank's voice hardened. You wanted me to feel small, worthless, invisible, and for a while you succeeded. I felt all those things. Frank looked at Marcus, at Dorothy Chen, at all the people who'd stood with him. But then something happened. People saw that video, and instead of laughing, they were angry on my behalf. They stood up. They fought back. They refused to let me be invisible. His voice cracked. I thought I was nothing. I thought I didn't matter. But I was wrong. And you three taught me that lesson in the worst possible way. He turned back to the defendants. You wanted to destroy me. Instead, you reminded me that I'm still here. I still matter. I'm still worthy of dignity and respect and justice. Frank gripped the podium. So I want to thank you for showing me that even at 80, even broken and alone, I'm not invisible. I never was. I just couldn't see it until you forced me to look. He stepped down. Marcus stood to help him. Frank waved him off. He could walk on his own. He needed to walk on his own. Dorothy Chen spoke next. Her voice shook, but her words were clear. She described 6 months of nightmares. 6 months of being afraid in her own home. 6 months of thinking she was crazy because the police hadn't believed her.
But Mr. Morrison believed me, Dorothy said. And because he stood up, I found the courage to stand up too. These 3 men tried to make me invisible. But I'm here. I'm visible. And I matter.
Each victim spoke, each story similar, each voice growing stronger as they realized they weren't alone. When the last victim finished, Judge Walsh looked at the three defendants. "Does anyone wish to make a statement before I impose sentence?" Devin Hayes stood slowly. His lawyer tried to pull him back down. Devin shook his head. "Your Honor, I'd like to speak." "Proceed." Devin turned to face Frank. His eyes were red. His hands trembled. "Mr. Morrison, I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I need to say it anyway." His voice broke. "I was there. I threw your wife's ashes. I kicked you. I laughed. And every night since, I see your face. I hear you begging. And I hate myself for it." "Mr. Hayes," his lawyer hissed. "Don't. I have to." Devin looked at Judge Walsh. "Your Honor, I'm not asking for leniency. I'm not asking for mercy. I deserve whatever punishment you give me. But I needed Mr. Morrison to know that what we did, what I did, it haunts me. It'll haunt me for the rest of my life." He sat down. His lawyer looked furious. Tyler and Jackson stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Judge Walsh was quiet for a long moment. Then she began. "I've reviewed the evidence. I've read the victim impact statements. I've considered the defendants' ages, their backgrounds, their lack of prior convictions." She paused. "And none of it matters as much as what they chose to do. They chose to target vulnerable elderly people. They chose to film their crimes. They chose to mock their victims. They chose cruelty over compassion. Again and again and again." She looked at each defendant in turn. "Tyler Brennan, you are sentenced to 12 years in state prison. Jackson Whitmore, you are sentenced to 10 years in state prison. Devin Hayes." She paused. "Your statement just now showed the first genuine remorse any of you have displayed. So I'm sentencing you to 8 years in state prison." Tyler's mother screamed. His father sat frozen. Jackson's family started crying. Devin's lawyer put his head in his hands. "Additionally," Judge Walsh continued, "all 3 of you will be required to pay full restitution to your victims. Medical expenses, property damage, emotional distress. The total will be determined by a separate hearing, but will be substantial. You will also be prohibited from profiting from your crimes in any way. No book deals, no movie rights, no interviews for compensation. And when you are released, you will be on probation for 10 years with strict conditions, including community service specifically with elderly veterans." She brought her gavel down. "Court is adjourned." The courtroom erupted again. This time, Judge Walsh let it happen. Let the victims cry and hug each other. Let the veterans cheer. Let Frank Morrison, 80 years old, disabled, forgotten no more, be surrounded by people who'd fought for him when he couldn't fight for himself. Marcus found his father in the chaos, pulled him close. Rex pressed against both of them. "It's over, Dad. It's finally over." Frank shook his head. "No, it's not over. It's just beginning." 6 months later, Frank stood at a podium in front of 200 people, veterans mostly, some elderly, some young, all of them listening. "My name is Frank Morrison," he said, "and 6 months ago, 3 men broke into my home and beat me. They destroyed my wife's ashes. They filmed me crying and posted it online. They thought I was invisible. They thought I didn't matter." He paused. Let the words sink in. They were wrong. And I'm here to tell you that if you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever felt like your service doesn't matter anymore, like you're just taking up space until you die, you're wrong too. You matter. Your service matters. Your dignity matters. And there are people who will fight for you, if you'll let them. The crowd was silent, listening. This isn't just about me. It's about every veteran who's been forgotten, every elderly person who's been mistreated, every vulnerable individual who's been told they don't matter. Frank's voice strengthened. We do matter, and we need to stand up for each other, because when one of us is attacked, all of us are attacked. And when one of us stands up, all of us can stand taller. He finished his speech to thunderous applause. Marcus watched from the side of the stage, pride radiating from every pore. Afterward, people lined up to meet Frank, to shake his hand, to tell their own stories of being forgotten or mistreated or made to feel invisible. Frank listened to each one, remembered each name, because he understood now. Being seen meant seeing others too. "You did good, Dad," Marcus said later as they drove home. Rex was in the back seat, head resting on the console between them. "I was terrified. Thought I'd forget what to say." "He didn't forget anything. You were perfect," Frank smiled. "Your mother would have been proud." "She is proud. Wherever she is, she's proud." They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Then Frank spoke. "Marcus, about your retirement. Already submitted the paperwork, effective next month. And you're sure? No regrets?" "No regrets." Marcus glanced at his father. "I've spent 15 years protecting strangers. Time to protect the people who matter most. Time to be here. Time to be your son, instead of just a name on your phone." Frank's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve you." "That's backward, Dad. I don't deserve you. But I'm grateful I have you, and I'm going to make damn sure we don't waste another day." 1 year after the attack, Frank stood in a cemetery, Marcus beside him, Rex at their feet. In front of them, Helen's new gravestone, the one Frank had finally commissioned with Marcus's help. Helen Morrison, beloved wife and mother. She made the ordinary extraordinary. "You picked a good inscription," Marcus said. "It's true. She did make everything better. Even me." Frank touched the cold stone. "I'm sorry I kept you in that urn for so long, baby. Sorry I couldn't let you go." "You can let her go now?" "I think so. I think I'm ready." Frank looked at his son. "She's not in the ashes anyway. She's in my memories. In you. In the way you fight for people, the way she always did. She's not gone. She just changed form." They stood together as the sun set, father and son, man and dog. A family that had almost fallen apart, but had been forced back together by cruelty, and had chosen to stay together through love. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "What do you think happens next? With the advocacy work? With everything?" Frank considered. "I think we keep fighting. Keep speaking up. Keep making sure that nobody else feels as alone as I felt that night." He smiled. "And I think we do it together. As a team. The way it should have been all along." Marcus put his arm around his father's shoulders. "Team Morrison. I like it." "Me too, son. Me too." The Morrison Act passed the state legislature 8 months after the trial. Increased penalties for crimes against elderly veterans. Mandatory reporting for suspected elder abuse. Funding for security systems in the homes of at-risk elderly individuals. Protection for victims who came forward. Frank and Marcus attended the signing ceremony. The governor shook Frank's hand. Cameras flashed. Media asked questions. "Mr. Morrison, how does it feel to have a law named after you?" Frank looked at all the faces watching him, at the other elderly victims who'd come forward because he'd given them courage, at the veterans who'd stood with him when he'd felt most alone, at his son, who'd refused to let him be invisible. It feels like responsibility, Frank said. This law isn't about me. It's about making sure what happened to me doesn't happen to others. And if it does happen, that there are protections in place. Resources, support, justice. What would you say to other victims of elder abuse? I'd say you're not alone. You're not invisible. What happened to you matters. And there are people who will fight for you if you'll let them. Frank's voice was firm. Don't be ashamed. Don't be silent. Stand up. Speak out. Because your voice matters. Your story matters. You matter. The cameras captured it all. The words spread across news stations, social media, veteran networks, elder advocacy groups. Frank Morrison, 81 now, still walking with a cane, still carrying the scars, became the face of a movement he never asked to lead. But he led it anyway, because someone had to, because he'd learned the hard way that silence was complicity, that invisibility was a choice, that mattering meant fighting to be seen. 2 years after the attack, Marcus and Frank stood in Frank's living room. They were packing. Marcus had bought a house big enough for both of them, a place where Frank could have his own space, but wouldn't be alone, a place where they could be a family again. "You sure about this?" Frank asked for the 100th time. "Living with your old man?" "Completely sure." Marcus taped up another box. "Besides, Rex likes you better than me now. I'm just along for the ride." Rex wagged his tail from his spot on the floor. He'd essentially adopted Frank, slept in Frank's room, followed him everywhere, protected him with the same intensity he'd once protected Marcus in combat zones. "What about when you want to date? Bring someone home? You can't do that with your dad around." "Then I'll introduce them to you first. If they can't handle meeting my father, they're not worth dating." Marcus grinned. "Besides, you're a good judge of character. Better than me." Frank laughed. "Your mother was the good judge. I just agreed with." "Then I'll channel Mom's ghost through you. Problem solved." They finished packing as the sun set. One phase of their lives ending, another beginning. Harder in some ways, easier in others. But together, finally together. Frank took one last look at the house, his home for 30 years. The place where he'd raised Marcus, where Helen had died, where he'd been attacked and almost destroyed, where he'd been saved by a son who refused to let him go. "Goodbye, house," Frank whispered. "It's just a building, Dad." "I know, but it holds a lot of memories." "Then we'll take the memories with us. Leave the ghosts behind." They loaded the last boxes into Marcus's truck. Rex jumped in without being told. Frank climbed into the passenger seat. Marcus started the engine. As they pulled away, Frank didn't look back. Didn't watch the house disappear in the rearview mirror. Because Marcus was right. The memories came with them. The house was just a building. Home was wherever they were together. "You hungry?" Marcus asked as they drove through the quiet streets. "Starving." "Good, because I'm making dinner tonight. My famous spaghetti." "The one that's actually edible, or the one where you burn the garlic?" "Hey, I only did that once." "Twice?" "Okay, twice. But I've improved." Frank smiled. This right here, this stupid argument about burned garlic, this was what mattered. Not grand gestures or big speeches or laws with his name on them. Just a father and son driving through the evening, bickering about dinner, being family. 3 years after the attack, Tyler Brennan's parole hearing made national news. He'd served the minimum required time, been a model prisoner, taken classes, gotten therapy, done everything the parole board could ask for. Frank received a letter 2 weeks before the hearing. "Dear Mr. Morrison, I know I have no right to contact you, no right to ask anything of you, but I wanted you to know that I've spent every day of the past 3 years thinking about what I did to you. I've replayed that night in my mind thousands of times, and each time I'm more ashamed, more horrified that I was capable of such cruelty. Frank read the letter twice, 3 times, trying to find manipulation, trying to find lies, finding only what seemed like genuine remorse. "He wants you to support his parole," Marcus said flatly. "That's what this is." Maybe. Or maybe he's just trying to apologize. He had 3 years to apologize. Why now? Because now he understands what he did. Frank folded the letter carefully. Or maybe you're right. Maybe it's manipulation. But I'm going to that hearing either way. Dad, I need to see him. Need to look him in the eye. Need to know if the remorse is real or if he's just learned to fake it better. The parole hearing was closed to media, but open to victims. Frank attended, Marcus beside him. Dorothy Chen came too. So did 2 other victims. Tyler was let in, wearing prison clothes. He'd lost weight, looked older. The arrogance that had radiated from him in the courtroom was gone, replaced with something that looked like exhaustion. The parole board asked their questions. Tyler answered carefully, respectfully, described the therapy he'd undergone, the realization of what he'd done, the person he'd been versus the person he was trying to become. "Mr. Morrison," the board chair said, "you have the opportunity to address the board regarding Mr. Brennan's parole. Would you like to speak?" Frank stood, walked to the microphone. Tyler met his eyes, didn't look away, didn't flinch. 3 years ago, Tyler Brennan broke into my home. He beat me. He destroyed my wife's ashes. He filmed me crying and posted it for the world to see. Frank's voice was steady. He made me feel worthless, invisible, less than human. Tyler's eyes filled with tears. I wanted him to rot in prison, wanted him to suffer the way I suffered, wanted him to know what it felt like to be powerless and broken and alone. Frank paused. But over the past 3 years, I've learned something. Vengeance doesn't heal. It just creates more pain, more suffering, more people who are broken. He looked directly at Tyler. I don't know if you've really changed. I don't know if this remorse is real, or if you've just learned to play the game better. But I know this. Keeping you in prison doesn't make my life better, doesn't restore what you took, doesn't undo the harm. So I'm not going to stand in the way of your parole. Tyler's face crumpled. Mr. Morrison, I'm not finished. Frank's voice hardened. If you get out, if you get this second chance, you better not waste it. You better live every day trying to make up for what you did. You better become someone who makes the world better instead of worse. Because if you don't, if you hurt someone else, if you go back to being the person who thought cruelty was entertainment, then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure everyone knows who you really are. I will, Tyler whispered. I promise. I will. Good, because that's all any of us can do. Try to be better today than we were yesterday. The parole board granted Tyler's release on conditions. Jackson Whitmore's parole was denied. He'd been violent in prison, shown no real remorse. Devin Hayes wasn't eligible yet, but his record was good. His chances were strong. Afterward, Tyler approached Frank in the hallway. Marcus moved to intercede. Frank waved him back. Mr. Morrison, Tyler's voice shook. Thank you for not opposing my parole, for giving me a chance. I didn't give you anything. You have to earn it. I know. I will. I promise I will. Tyler wiped his eyes. I wanted to tell you, I've been volunteering, in prison, helping elderly inmates who can't read anymore, who have trouble getting around. It's not much. It's not enough, but it's something. Frank studied the young man in front of him.
trying to see past the prison clothes and the tears to whoever Tyler Brennan really was underneath. "Keep doing that," Frank said finally. "Keep helping people. Keep making amends. Not because you have to. Not because the parole board is watching, but because it's the right thing to do." "I will, sir. I promise." They didn't shake hands, didn't hug, just stood there for a moment, victim and victimizer, connected forever by one terrible night 3 years ago, and then went their separate ways. 5 years after the attack, Frank Morrison turned 85. Marcus threw him a party. Veterans filled the backyard. Dorothy Chen brought her famous apple pie. The other victims came with their families. Even Gerald Brennan attended, welcome back into Frank's life, if not his own family's. Frank stood on his back porch, watching everyone, listening to laughter, seeing people who'd been strangers brought together by tragedy and transformed into family. "Good party, Dad?" Marcus appeared beside him with 2 beers. "Best one I've ever had." "Better than your 50th? That was your mother's party. I just showed up." Frank accepted the beer. "This one's mine, and I'm actually here for it." Actually present, not just going through the motions. They stood in comfortable silence. Then Marcus spoke. "I got a call today, from a producer. They want to make a movie about what happened to you." "A movie?" "Yeah. They want to tell your story. Show how one man standing up can change things, create movements, pass laws." "I don't want to be in a movie." "You don't have to be. They'd hire actors, change names if you want. But they think the story matters. Think it could help other people who are suffering to find courage to speak up?" Frank considered. "What do you think?" "I think it's your story, your choice. But I also think Mom would have said yes. She always believed in using pain for purpose, in making sure suffering meant something." Frank smiled. "She did say that. Every time I'd complain about my leg, she'd say, 'Good, now you can help other people who are hurting, because you understand.'" She was wise. She was everything. Frank looked at his son, at the man who'd saved him, who'd fought for him, who'd chosen him over career and convenience and everything else. "You're like her, you know. You have her heart. I have her stubbornness." "Same thing." They laughed, clinked beer bottles, watched the party continue below. "Tell the producer yes," Frank said finally. "Tell them they can make their movie, but on one condition." "What's that?" "The ending has to be true. Has to show that justice is possible, that standing up matters, that old men who feel invisible can still change the world if someone believes in them enough to fight." Done. 7 years after the attack, Frank Morrison died peacefully in his sleep at age 87. Marcus found him in the morning, Rex whining softly beside the bed. He looked peaceful, finally at rest. Finally reunited with Helen after 7 long years of missing her. The funeral was massive. Veterans from every branch, elder advocacy groups, victims he'd helped, lives he'd touched. The governor attended, 3 congressmen, the mayor who'd once tried to bury his case. Marcus gave the eulogy. "My father was a quiet man. He didn't want attention. Didn't want fame, didn't want to be the face of a movement." Marcus's voice was steady, despite the tears on his face. But 3 men attacked him, and instead of staying quiet, instead of accepting that he was invisible and powerless, he stood up. He fought back, and he changed the world. He paused. "The Morrison Act has protected thousands of elderly veterans. Frank Morrison's story has inspired countless people to speak up about abuse. His advocacy work has led to new programs, new resources, new protections." Marcus looked at the casket.
My father spent 60 years thinking he was ordinary, thinking he was just another man who served his country and lived his life and didn't matter much in the grand scheme of things. His voice broke. He was wrong. He mattered more than he ever knew. And he taught me something crucial, that heroes don't always look like soldiers in combat. Sometimes they look like 80-year-old men with canes who refuse to stay down when the world tries to break them. They buried Frank next to Helen. Same cemetery, same view. Together again after too long apart. Marcus stayed after everyone left, sat between his parents' graves, Rex beside him. I kept my promise, Dad. I was there. For all of it. Every doctor's appointment, every speaking engagement, every time you woke up from nightmares about that night. I was there. Marcus touched his father's headstone. And I'll keep being here. I'll keep fighting for the things you believed in. Keep making sure your story continues to matter. Keep honoring the legacy you didn't even know you were building. Rex pressed against Marcus's side. The old dog was slowing down. 13 years old now. Retired from everything except being family. Come on, boy. Let's go home. They walked to the truck together, man and dog, both of them carrying grief. Both of them carrying love. Both of them understanding that family wasn't always the one you were born into. Sometimes it was the one you chose, the one you fought for, the one you refused to let go. 10 years after the attack, the movie premiered. Marcus attended with Dorothy Chen and the other victims. They sat together as the lights dimmed, and Frank Morrison's story played out on screen. It was faithful, honest, showed the pain and the fear and the humiliation. But it also showed the courage, the fight, the victory, the way one man's refusal to stay invisible had sparked a movement that protected thousands. When the credits rolled, the theater erupted in applause. Marcus didn't clap, just sat there with tears streaming down his face, remembering his father, remembering Helen, remembering the scared old man on the floor covered in ashes, who'd somehow found the strength to stand up. Your dad would have hated this, Dorothy whispered beside him. All this attention. He would have, Marcus smiled through his tears. But he would have understood why it mattered, why his story needed to be told. It's not just his story anymore. It's ours, all of us. Dorothy squeezed his hand. Every person who's ever felt invisible, ever felt like they didn't matter, ever felt like standing up was pointless, your father proved them wrong. Our father, Marcus corrected gently. He belonged to all of us, everyone he touched, everyone he helped, everyone who found courage in his courage. They left the theater into the bright afternoon sun, life continuing, the world moving forward. But Frank Morrison's legacy remained, in laws, in programs, in changed hearts and protected lives, in a son who'd learned that the greatest battles weren't always fought overseas. Sometimes they were fought in courtrooms and living rooms and quiet moments between father and son. Marcus drove to the cemetery, parked, walked to his parents' graves. Rex followed slowly, arthritis slowing the old warrior down. Hey, Dad. Hey, Mom. Marcus knelt between them. The movie premiered today. It was good. Really good. They got it right. Showed you as you were, scared and brave and broken and strong, all at the same time. The wind rustled through the trees. I miss you both, every day. But I'm okay. Better than okay. I'm doing the work, fighting the fights, making sure your story continues to change lives. Marcus touched both headstones. And I know you're together now, finally, after too long apart. I know you're watching. I know you're proud. He stood, brushed off his knees,
Rex pressed against his leg. "Come on, boy. We've got work to do." Because that was the truth Frank Morrison had taught him. That standing up mattered. That fighting for dignity mattered. That refusing to let the invisible stay invisible mattered. It didn't erase the pain, didn't undo the harm, didn't bring back the years lost or the ashes scattered or the nights spent afraid. But it meant something, and meaning was everything.
Frank Morrison was 80 years old, with a disabled leg and a broken heart, when 3 men attacked him in his home. They thought he was weak. They thought he was powerless. They thought he was invisible. They were wrong about all of it. And the world was better because one old man refused to believe the lies cruelty tried to teach him. One son refused to let his father face the darkness alone. And together, they proved that justice isn't just about punishment. It's about dignity, about worth, about insisting that every person matters, regardless of age or ability or circumstance. Frank Morrison mattered. He always had. He just needed the world to prove it. And once it did, he spent his remaining years making sure no one else ever had to beg for that proof again.